I'm Arthur Moats, and I'm here to tell you about my new book, The Moats Theory of Life. If you haven't picked up a copy yet, I strongly encourage you to. This book not only is a fun read, but it's a guide to helping you become a person of impact and inspiration. If you are ready to take the next step to improving not only your life, but those around you as well, go get a copy of The Moats Theory of Life, and it's available at moatstheory.com. What's up? It's the Arthur Moats Experience with Deke. I'm Arthur Moats, and that's my main man, Deke.
What's up, man?
Just another beautiful day in sunny Pittsburgh, hosting, being the only undefeated team in the NFL and being on a podcast that is brought to you by DRAFTKINGS Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook and app. I mean, I just feel so awesome because it's brought to us. Like I said, man, another episode. Shout out to DraftKings. Shout out to anybody that hasn't downloaded the app also, because if you do so and you're a first-time user, you use the promo code MOATS, you will receive up to $1,000 in deposit bonus money, man. That's an awesome feeling, man. I'm just really excited about the fact that they're still on board with us and we're still cooking right now, man. So, as I was talking about being 10-0, as I was talking about being the last of a dying breed, it's you look around right now, man, it's not too many undefeated teams. In fact, it's only one, and that is us. So it's a great feeling, man, as always, baby. How you feeling today, though, man?
Another week, another win.
Absolutely. The beer getting thicker. I like it.
It's getting intense, dude.
I had a question for you. So for me, right, I can go a month and my mustache get thick. I don't really get the size, but it gets to that point where I can taste it when I'm eating, like it gets in the food. Are you to that point just yet, man?
Well, I have a couple times throughout. I've had to just level off the mustache a little bit, and then like down here, like, and I've also done that. Like I've drawn a line. Like I know there's probably people out there that actually do the whole beard thing, and they'll like fade the bottom and like fade the sides and stuff. But no, I'm just keeping the whole thing. It's just kind of just crazy right now. Outside, like I said, I just trimmed the mustache. And just like a little bit on the neck down here. That's it. Because
I know, like, it just looks like if you go to eat anything, it's hit.
Oh, it does, dude. Bro. Dude, trust me, man. Like I'm weird like this. Sometimes I'll just eat cheese, like the shredded cheese. Okay. Like I'll put it in a bowl or something, or just like take a handful of it and eat it like that. Yeah. If that's the only cheese we got, because I do like cheese. Okay. So yeah, there was a couple times I would do that, and there's like shredded cheese over my beard. Dude, trying to drink milk, it's like, is it Anchorman? Is that the one where he's drinking the milk and it's all over his beard and stuff? Yeah, that's what I look like.
It's all good, man, because it signifies we're still undefeated. It signifies this train is still rolling. We talked about this 11 weeks ago when you first came up with the idea of growing it out. And here we are, man.
It's hilarious because I think it was like week 1 or 2. I went down to a bar down South Side with my dad. It was one of his buddies growing up. He owns a bar down there. And I didn't see him in probably like a year or two, maybe 2 or 3 years. And he's like, yo, this beard. And I'm like, yeah, I'm just growing it out for all the Steelers wins. Just, try to keep a streak going. And he's like, I hope you look like Moses. So, dude, I'm getting there.
I like it, man. Shout out. Yes, indeed. And then also, got to pull up my handy dandy computer here for my notes. Shout out to the people that have participated yesterday too, man, on YouTube, man. We did another shirt giveaway. And for the score predictions. So remember last time we had a little bit of some jankiness going on. We said we had some edited comments. I made sure this time I said, do not edit your comments. I think we might have had 1 or 2 edits, but for the most part, everybody was on par. We asked people try to wait till like the fourth quarter with like a minute left to put a prediction in. We weren't going for that. So we came up with the person that was the closest. They were almost identical. They were 3 points off. So
when was this, at halftime?
Yeah. They predicted at halftime. Yeah. So the final score obviously was 27-3 for the Steelers. And this person, Majori Dudley, predicted 27-6.
Yeah, that's close.
So that was 3 points off, man. That was the absolute closest one. We had some 27-10s, some 27-13s. My man was close. They tried to copy his joint. It was all love, though, man. But either way, man, shout out to Majori Dudley, man. You had the right score. So with that being said, make sure you send an email to moatswinners winners@gmail.com. So it's Moats, Moats, winners@gmail.com. Send your contact info, man, size and stuff. We'll get the shirt out there to you, but definitely appreciate you, for tuning in, Majori. Yes, indeed.
I like the custom email address.
Oh, yeah, man. Shout out to the team, man. Shout out to the team. That's because I was over here trying to figure out, well, how are we going to get this info? It's not like Instagram and Twitter where I can just shoot a DM back and forth. I'm like, I'm not giving out like
Moats Winners, though. Moats Winners is great. Yeah.
Shout out to the winners, man. And that's, like I said, that's the team. The team came with the idea. They said it's a great name to go with. So that's why you have a team in place, man. So, yeah. Now for the fun part, man. We got to get into these questions.
We got questions.
Right?
Well, it's a good thing we have questions because I thought yesterday it was a good one because we won 27-3. Should have been 30-3. But it also was just like a sleepy one. It was like, all right, it got to the point at some point in like the first or second quarter, we're winning this game. Yeah. So I'm going to be interested to hear some of these headlines or questions or things brought up because as I'm watching the game and I'm even thinking about, man, what are hot topics? What are things to really go off of? I don't know. I just felt like, all right, we're on to this Thanksgiving game against Ravens now.
I'm not going to lie. I thought the same thing until I went to the comments. I'm like, oh, okay.
That's what,
there's some concerns there. All right.
We'll see. Obviously, the running game's probably going to get brought up, but yeah.
Yeah, so we'll just dive right into this thing. Yeah. So this first question, it looks like it's from Vincent Flory. Shout out to Vincent Flory. How does Tyson Alawalu's impact on run defense? Make sure because I'm reading it as is right now, man. So how does Tyson impact the run game? And more importantly, it seems like when he is gone, we are really hurting there. But when he's back, it seems like it's back to normal. Honestly, I mean, when you talk about Tyson's impact, then when he controls the line of scrimmage, he dominates the interior portion of it as it pertains to the run game. When you're talking about centers and guards trying to single block him, a lot of time, man, he's getting their grass. And when I talk about their grass, I'm talking 1 to 2 yards in the backfield. That's the goal as a D lineman. You don't want to get 3, 4, 5 yards, especially on run plays, because you'll create natural seams and natural gaps for a runner to just avoid you and get positive yards. But Tyson does a good job of getting that 1 to 2 yards of penetration, and his hand placement is key. When you watch him on tape, he's a very fundamentally sound player. He always has both of his hands in the driver's seat in terms of getting to the steering wheel, the offensive lineman's breastplate or numbers. He always has two hands there, inside hands, and he's always shocking, locking, and keeping his body moving. Those are the keys to being consistent as a D lineman. Those are the keys to just being a very productive player across that front. And he does it play in and play out. I feel like, honestly, outside of Cam, he's probably the most consistent guy on that front as it pertains to just being fundamentally sound and playing in the run game. And that's why a large amount of tackle for losses are happened when he's on the field. You look at how Vince and Robert are able to play downhill so fast. That's because Tyson's out there, man. He keeps those guys clean. He is a true penetrator through the interior part of that offensive line. And I mean, you add to the fact he's from that 2010 draft class. You know that class, they got like all the just amazing players in it or whatever. But he's a part of that class, and he was at the beginning of that class. So you know he's an extra high pedigree guy. And that all plays into why he's able to be so successful and why when he's out there, the run game looks so good. But not only him, Mike Hilton being back out there played a huge role as well, man. He's a guy that, I mean, we talk about him as a blitzer, but he does great things in the run game in terms of forcing action, in terms of tackling. So he's another reason why the run game from a defensive standpoint looked really good out there.
Dude, I got two things. One, I was really trying to find this graphic because it goes hand in hand with this question. Maybe that's why the question was asked, but there was a graphic that popped up on Instagram yesterday, and it was with Alawalu on it, and then there was two stats. It was like, our yards per carry on defense when Alawalu's out, it was like 5 or 6. Yeah. And then yards per carry when Alawalu's in, it was like 1.9 or just in the 1s or 2s or something like that. I was trying to find it. I wanted to be exact, but that was essentially what it was. So I mean, it kind of goes hand in hand with what we're saying. And I think it was what games has he missed?
He just missed Ravens and Titans. I want to say Ravens, Titans, and maybe Dallas. I think Dallas.
It might have been Dallas.
Yeah, I think Dallas, because his first game back was Cincinnati last week.
Because I remember us talking about that a few weeks ago. Like, what's Tyson Alawalu's impact? And you kind of said the same thing. Like, he's been awesome for us this year.
Absolutely, man. And another thing too, I will say is we do have to remember with some of those stats, when they talk about him being off the field, that includes like sub package ball as well. And we know typically, I mean, a team, it could be 3rd and 12 or 3rd and 15. They do give up ball, run it,
7 yards.
You know what I mean? So that does also skew it, because let's be real, even when he's not on the field for the sub ball, we still have played really well in the run game in terms of defense, and that's the part where I talk about Mike Hill as well.
That's definitely fair.
Yeah, so they all go hand in hand, but that does play a little bit into that, just because we've seen teams do that now versus where they're not going to take too many shots downfield because they know just between the pass rush and the secondary, hey man, let's just minimize the damage, run the ball, get about this down, punt, play field position. So that plays into it as well. But man, Tyson's impact has been crazy. I mean, he's one of those guys, just like Joe Hayden, man. He's come here and it's almost revitalized his career. He's been looking great since he's been here, man.
Yeah. Second thing I wanted to say was, even though we did, for the most part, contain the run, or we looked good against the run yesterday, I like James Robinson, man, on their team. Dude, he looks good, man.
Bro, I mean, let's really still had, 17 carries for 73 yards?
Well, that's he
still was productive.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Even more impressive being with that quarterback and just that offense, how it is to get 75, what was it, 75 yards?
73. Yeah.
73 yards, over 4 yards a carry when your offense is just completely stagnant.
But that's why when you heard Robert Spillane talk about it on the interview, he spoke highly of him. Coach Tomlin spoke highly of him. When you watch him on tape, he is a good running back. It's a reason why, I mean, going into the game, he was 5th in the league in rushing yards. He's very decisive. He runs with a physical demeanor. He looks like he's trying to score or punish the guy who's trying to tackle him. Those are signs of really good running backs. And if you're doing that in a system where, like you said, Jake Luton is your quarterback, and we know that he's limited in what he can do from a passing standpoint, you know that everyone is keying on you because he's the person that keeps them in the game. I mean, watching the game, we knew, I think when we got up 17-3, even though we felt the game was in control, it didn't get gory because he was still able to keep them on track. And that's what we talked about going into the game. We said, if you
some catches there too,
he's going to make plays, but he's the person that keeps them on schedule and keeps these games close, even though it doesn't feel close. So, I mean, you're looking at the score 10-3, 17-3, and it's like, it's not terrible, but you're like, dang, man, they're just still hanging around, and it's because of him. But that's been their MO all season. And the difference this game versus in the past was, typically they haven't turned the ball over. Yesterday they turned the ball over, and that was the difference. When you turn the ball over, that's how you can make these games get out of hand. But you take away the turnovers and it's going exactly how we said it would be. I mean, in terms of us being in control, never feeling like it's a threat, but them still just being in the mix.
Yeah, because one of them was down in the red zone.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Minka pick.
One.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was. I like I said, I thought it was a good game overall. Defense was good, and obviously with Alawalu. Mm-hmm. Being a focal point there.
Absolutely, man. So shout out to Vincent. That was a good question right there. All right, this next one is from, this says Neil Shinoy. All right, Neil Shinoy. All right, cool. How will the Steelers adjust with the loss of Zach Gentry and potentially being without McDonald? Vance McDonald. I was about to call him Zach McDonald. Without Vance McDonald.
What's going on with this? Because how long is Vance out for? Is it just COVID with him?
Yeah, he's COVID right now. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But it depends. I mean, because they haven't really talked about if he's having symptoms or not. If he's having symptoms, that could be a reason why it's elongated. I mean, because we've seen people come back, I think, within a week, I want to say, if I remember right. It's either a week or 10 days time frame for people that have had positive COVID tests. But like I said,
Cam only missed a week.
Yeah, but they haven't talked about if he's having symptoms or anything like that. So yeah, that's all going into that right there, man.
Dude, I'm not gonna lie, I had no clue we signed Zach Gentry. I saw him on the field like a week or two ago. Mm-hmm. When did we officially sign him? Do you remember this?
No, he was a draft pick. He was drafted, was that 2 years ago?
No, I know, but didn't we lose him? We lost Gentry.
No. We I thought we lost Jesse. Let me check.
No, we lost James, but like Gentry went to the Broncos. I think they cut him.
No, I thought that was the other one. I thought that was the one that came from Seattle.
Vanette.
Yeah,
you're
Vanette
right.
Was the one.
No, you're right. I'm getting them all mixed up here. You're right, 100%.
So yeah, Gentry, he's been on, man. He just doesn't play a lot because, I mean, what he brings to the table, you want him to either be a combat catch guy or a blocking guy right now, and he really hasn't emerged as either. So that's been the biggest reason why he hasn't been up there. And then when you bring in Ebron, then it really made it where they'll go with these two tight end sets, Ebron and Vance, and roll like that. But I mean, yesterday, probably midway through the second quarter, they were down to one tight end, and you can see, I mean, in terms of they still were able to run the ball, but the problem is this. When Ebron is the only tight end you're using, you're great from a passing standpoint. And you saw, I mean, obviously the touchdown he had late in the game. The problem is when it comes to running the ball, he can't, in terms of him being the point of attack guy, it's not a good percentage of him making and sustaining the block. It's either he's going to miss or he'll have initial contact that can't sustain the block. So trying to formulate the run around him can be a little bit difficult. So we saw even yesterday, even though, I mean, this was probably the best the Steelers have looked running the ball in the past couple of weeks. The thing still with that, when you watch some of these runs, is more James Conner making a guy miss and making something out of nothing than just across the board guys, winning their blocks and driving the guys off the ball. Like, it wasn't like that. But that's another thing. That's why we always say you got to watch the tape, because if you just read the stat sheet, it
running games back.
Like, man, it'd be like, yo, man, we're good. Over 100 yards rushing as a team. James got off like, man, we must have destroyed them up front. And when you really look at it, a couple of these runs, I mean, are just simply James making a guy miss, James reversing field. I mean, he looked like Reggie Bush one time. Like, where was this at, James? This was an awesome, pleasant surprise, and we'll get into that a lot more. But that's the issues that you run in when you're only going to have Ebron out there. So something that they did later on in the game, they brought in, I want to mess up his name.
It's cool. The standards are low. The standards are low. I thought Gentry was Vinette. Like it's.
I'm not gonna mess his name up. I'm gonna Google him right now so I can make sure I have his name the right way.
I'm telling you, there's no pressure.
Steelers roster, because I'm pulling his number up and his number's not even showing up right now. But he definitely got in yesterday, so I need to just make sure I say his name right.
You talking about the center? We put it fullback.
Yep. I want to make sure it's
JC. Is that his first name?
It's Hassener. That's what I was trying. I know it's JC's. Hassener. See, don't fire me for that. But that was some of the things that they did. So, and this was the thing. So they used him at fullback initially pre-snap, but then they shifted him to a pseudo tight end set. That's kind of what they were trying to do.
Like Banner last year.
Absolutely. So those are some of the things that they did. The problem is you can do that when it's goal line, because field's condensed. We're going to have big on big anyways. But you are limited. You can't do that out in the field, which is why you didn't see them try to utilize that. And then obviously you're hoping that Derek White can get healthy and you can get him back out there. That'll give you a little bit more flexibility as well.
He's hurt again.
He's been dealing with a hamstring, man, the past couple of weeks. Even when he came back versus Cincy, then he ended up going out early in that game and he still went down. Yeah,
you're right.
So that's the thing going on with him. So you're really limited just from a personnel standpoint right now. So that's why you saw them yesterday. I mean, it wasn't a lot of two tight end sets because they didn't even go with using I'm just calling him JC. I don't even want to butcher his name.
JC's easy.
They're not even using JC out in the field because it limits you as well. So that's another thing that they're going to have to figure out as it pertains to the run game. What can you do from a personnel standpoint to get you an extra tight end, tight body out there? If Derek White is healthy this week, for me, I'm doubting it because it's a short week. If this is a Sunday to Sunday, I feel a lot more confident. But if you were a scratch going, I think it was Friday, they had already said he was going to be out. I don't like the chance of you turning around and playing on Thursday if you weren't even questionable going into the game on Sunday. That's my whole thing with that, man.
Well, and that goes back to what we've talked about over the past 4 or 5 weeks of, all right, if we have Derek Watt in, though, that kind of takes away of maybe a more dynamic passing game, having like Ebron out there, an extra receiver. I don't know how much I like that, but if you're saying like this is our last ditch effort of trying to get this running game going, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, but it's one of them things right now, man. It's one of those things, and it's been a perfect storm for us. We've had these past couple of games. I mean, granted, this one has been the best look from a rushing standpoint. We still have flaws in it. But this was like the perfect window of these three teams that we had just played between
of
Dallas,
messing around with it a little bit
and Cincinnati. Now this back six that we're about to go against, man. I mean, you're not really gonna see a lot more of those scenarios where we have on paper a clear-cut advantage. We're gonna have to figure out a way to address some of those things, man. And I think we will, but it's gonna take some extra work, man, especially on a short week. That's the thing too that sucks. That Sunday to Thursday game, man, you don't really have a lot of time to get creative. You gotta, essentially go with what you have, get the guys healthy is the biggest part, and then just go out there and just try to find a way, man.
Oh yeah, 100%. And that was one of the things that I took away at the end of this game. I'm just happy we're all healthy for the most part. I mean, Joe Hayden obviously had that injury. It was looking bad, but it's looking like he's good now.
After the game, Joe and Juju both said, with Juju, he said, the coach said that he could have came back in because of the score. They didn't want to push it, which is good.
That flag
it was crazy, right? Unreal. And then with Joe said it was more scary than actual like injury, you know? So even with him, and we're anticipating him, but Justin Lane came in and played really well, man. He stood up, in the words of Coach Tomlin, like a big dog out there on the edge, man, playing that corner spot. I thought he looked really well out there, man. Was competitive, challenged guys, and overall, just like he knew what he was supposed to do, which is key because we've talked about in the secondary this year some of the miscommunication that has happened, man. They didn't have that at all. Not that I saw yesterday. I'm gonna look at it again, but from everything I saw, it looked clean on the back end, which was the best part about it, because we said, man, that's been the Achilles heel of this defense. As great as they've been at times, they've allowed chunk plays due to miscommunication. So the fact that they were able to minimize that yesterday was huge, man.
For sure.
Absolutely. So shout out to Neil for that question, man.
Good question.
All right. Who we have right here? We got Daryl Nalams. I'm going to let you say that. Neloms. Nalams?
What'd you say? Hold on.
Neloms.
Yeah, for sure.
Nalams, right?
Yeah,
okay. So yeah, shout out to Daryl right here. So if Minkah keeps creating turnovers, will he overtake the Defensive Player of the Year conversation?
Ah, man.
Uh-oh.
That's a good question.
He had two of them yesterday.
It's a hot topic.
He's been he's been getting splashed.
I think it's TJ.
Has he scored he scored a touchdown too, right?
There's the Browns one.
Yeah, he scored a touchdown versus the Browns. He's got how many picks does he have on the season? Let me check real quick, because I know he got some turnovers, man.
It might be 4. If I had to bet, I'd say 4. Definitely.
Are you saying it's interceptions or turnovers total?
It's at least 3 turnovers total.
I'm looking at just turnovers.
I don't know if he had a forced fumble at all.
Let me see real quick. Hold on.
It's at least 3. 2 this game, the Browns game.
2020.
What was the other pick?
So he has 4 picks. He had 4 and a fumble recovery.
Oh, the Cowboys. The Cowboys one too.
He has 4 picks, a forced fumble, and a fumble recovery, and a touchdown.
What was the forced fumble?
It does not.
If someone could say in the comments, that'd be helpful.
Yeah, I'd have to look for which game. Yeah,
I can't remember that. All right, so 4 picks, 1 touchdown. Would you say forced fumble?
Yeah, 4 picks, a touchdown, forced fumble, fumble recovery.
He would need to have. He would need to probably get another touchdown. He would need another touchdown. Probably throw another 6
PBUs.
Throw another forced fumble in there, a touchdown, and like 2 or 3 more picks. Then, yeah, because that's probably about what Gilmore did last year, right?
Yeah. Well, the thing with Gilmore, the biggest thing with him was the 2 defensive touchdowns and only allowing 1 touchdown. That was like their big argument, because you talk about a number 1 corner that travels. We talk about he follows number 1 receivers. For you to have scored more than you've allowed that's crazy.
I guess there's nothing for Minkah on that, right? Being a safety.
But I think for Minkah, the biggest thing that can help him, obviously he's sitting at 4 picks. 2 more picks is going to be huge. If he can score again, it'd be huge. I mean, the fact he already has a touchdown is big. But if 2 more picks, 1 or 2 more forced fumbles, I think he does become more in that conversation. The problem is the safety position compared to like the linebacker position for TJ, right? Or even Aaron Donald, because we feel like those 2 are the front runners. They are able to frequently make splash plays because sacks are easier to come across than interceptions. So when you think about TJ sitting at 9 sacks, Aaron Donald sitting at 9 sacks, it's not, out of this world to think that these guys could still go on and have another 6-7 sacks this year. Whereas with Minkah, best case probably is another 2 to 3 picks. That's best case scenario. So you could just see the frequency.
And it would still be close.
Right. But the frequency in which they'll be able to make those type of plays, it's going to happen a lot more. So for viewers, you're able to see that. For voters, you're able to see that. And that sticks with you a lot more than I got to wait, a couple of games, or is it an end of game interception? When did this interception happen? Whereas that sack can happen at any point. But at the end of the year, they're going to look at the numbers and say, well, man, they had 15 sacks or 16 sacks. And it just is viewed differently. So I think that's something that's hurting Minkah.
I feel like you're a little more reliant on outside factors too, because we saw it last year with Minkah where he had that 4 or 5 game stretch. It was just absurd.
And then teams went away from him. Yeah.
And then the last 4 or 5 games we didn't really hear of Minkah because it seemed like they were trying to throw away from him. They didn't want Minkah to be involved because good things would happen for the Steelers when that would happen. So I think you're just a little bit more reliant on that stuff because who knows, maybe in the last 6 games here, people start straying away from Minkah.
I will say this too, because teams did that early on in the year. Remember, people were asking, man, is Minkah falling off? Like, what's going on? But this is where I wanted to shout out Butler and Mike Tomlin. Initially, they were playing Minkah predominantly center of the field. You watch them on tape now, Minkah and Edmonds, they both are in the hook curls a lot, low hold defenders a lot, but they also have shown a lot more trust in Edmonds, and he's playing a lot more middle of the field because that's allowing Minkah to have his eyes on the quarterback and just jump routes and things like that. And that's ultimately what he's really good at. That interception in the end zone, he was the low hold, just reading the quarterback and breaks on the ball after he gets tipped. Those are the things that they both, that from a coaching staff, from a scheme standpoint of getting Minkah closer to where he can be more of a factor. And number 2, showing the trust in Edmonds. And obviously Edmonds has shown them that he's trustworthy from that standpoint. But that all has played into Minkah being able to get back productive after those first couple of games. We saw it predominantly at that Browns game where they started using him as a low defender. He was able to jump the Baker pass for the pick 6.
That's
and then from there, they've been using him a lot, even in zone coverage. He's coming from high to low. We'll get the Edmonds pick too. They used him the same way on I think it was his second interception, just high to low. It was a cover 3, but he's essentially playing the linebackers drop. But the way they use it with the personnel around him, they get it where Minkah and Edmonds are able to just be, not having to move around a lot, key the quarterback and use their athletic ability and playmaking ability as well, man.
That second pick by Edmonds was sweet.
Oh, yeah, man.
The jump up, the tip to himself, that was really sweet.
Absolutely, man.
Do we have the same answer for this? It's just wait and see.
I feel like he's
maybe we could say look out, like those eye emojis. We could put them on the radar here.
I look at it like this, man. If you're talking about the conversation, technically yes, he's in the conversation. Is he a front runner right now? No, but he can definitely become a front runner if he continues to produce. But is he in the conversation? I think yes, he's in the conversation just based on what we've read right now about his statistics. And when you're looking around the league, outside of TJ and Aaron Donald, who are we really saying is a front runner to be in that conversation? Khalil Mack. I
thought Myles Garrett was in the mix for a little bit. Did he fall off a little bit?
No. I think he's still producing. I know he just missed the game though. He was okay. I want to say he got hurt. I forgot what was going on with it.
But I think you're right. I think the main conversation has been between TJ and Aaron Donald though.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. I don't know. I think if he just keeps it up like we're talking about, man, 3 or 4 more picks, it's going to be hard to really completely write him off in the conversation.
Yeah.
What's the word on Garrett here?
So Myles Garrett. So he's sitting at 9.5 sacks,
okay.
4 forced fumble. I think he missed because of COVID. That's what it was with him. I want to say
he's probably in the mix then too, because I've heard his name tossed around there.
He's
too.
right on par with TJ and Donald's stats.
Yeah.
So let me see. Just make sure I get. See if they can see exactly. Yeah, he was on the COVID list last week, so that's why he didn't play.
Okay.
But let me just check one thing with Myles. So this is the thing. So from a number standpoint, Myles, Aaron Donald, TJ, they're all at the same 9.5. Even Bud sitting there with 8 sacks as well. The difference is this: when you're talking about QB hits, TJ has 30. I think he has 30 QB hits right now, which is double the rest of these guys.
Okay.
Yeah. So like Myles has 14. I think Bud is sitting at 14. Aaron Donald's sitting at 16 right now.
Well, dude, you saw it in the game yesterday. Yeah. I know he didn't have a sack, but dude, how many times was he back there making impact? Man. So it's just one of those things. Maybe stats won't tell the whole thing, but his stats are incredible. But I really like that QB hit stat that you just brought up.
Well, and the thing with that though, it's a good and bad stat. So for TJ, you make it a good stat because you're like, well, even though he's not getting the sacks, he's getting back there. He's getting the QB hits. If you're a Myles Garrett guy, if you're a Bud Dupree guy, if you're an Aaron Donald guy, your argument to that is TJ plays over the right tackle. So typically he's not going against the best offensive lineman, whereas Myles, Bud, they're going against your left tackle, which is the dominant tackle. So you would anticipate it being a lot tougher. So that's, like I said, depending on how you want to spin the argument, you can go both ways with it. Either way, it's all impressive. And when you talk about those guys, I feel like they're all in those conversations. TJ is going to be in the conversation a lot more because of what he's been able to do throughout his career. So he's talked about a lot more, because that's what we said, like, when we say even with Bud's numbers, they're similar from a sack standpoint. The QB hits the biggest difference, but you can just see with Bud, it's more, all right, Pro Bowl. with TJ, we're talking defensive player of the year, and that's just how it goes, man. You have a couple of seasons where you should have already been in that conversation. The following year, they're going to make sure that, hey, you're in that conversation. And that's what's happening right now with TJ. And rightfully so, man. I mean, when you look at what he's been able to do throughout his first couple of years in this league, man, he's been nothing short of dominant, man. So, yeah, he deserves it, man. So hopefully he can continue this pace, stay healthy, and make sure, we get to the award at the end, man.
Yeah, we'll see if we have that good problem to have where we're debating TJ or Minka for defensive player of the year.
That'd be a great situation. It reminds me like D-Boy and Troy.
Yeah,
man.
yeah, exactly.
Hey, who do you give it to here? So I'm with that, man. So shout out to Daryl, man. That was a good question, Daryl. All right, now we got Timothy Roberts right here. Shout out to Timothy. Who do you think is the most underrated player on the Steelers and why?
Wow.
That's a good question, Timothy.
You brought up James Washington last week, right?
I did, man.
If we're talking most underrated here. Mm-hmm. Wow, dude. I wanna initially say Terrell Edmonds here, but I got to think a little bit. Do you have someone in mind?
For me, yeah, I'm going with Chooks Okorafor, right tackle. Obviously, a couple of reasons. Number one, this was his first elongated starting experience, and I feel like he's done a really good job, especially in pass protection, which is most important when you're talking about Ben Roethlisberger. Number two, though, mentally, man, you got to think this guy got beat out last year for the open competition by Matt Fowler. Then this year he got beat out again by Zach Banner. So it's like, man, mentally that could be a lot for you. I mean, especially when you think of his draft pedigree and stuff like that. And he doesn't have a lot of football experience. I think he started playing, I think he said at 13. So for me to see him not only physically continue to develop, but mentally show that fortitude where he's been able to come in since Zach went down and hasn't missed a beat. I mean, he's been looking really good from a pass protection standpoint. Even in the run game, he's done some good things. Now, obviously, the O-line as a whole has to continue to improve in that element. But when it pertains to the pass, man, he's been great. And you think about the guys that he's had to block against, man. We talked about, man, JJ Watt, they featured him. That was like we're going to circle you and we're going to make you stand up. And he did it for 4 quarters, and he's been doing that for 4 quarters this season. So to me, he's the underrated guy that, I mean, he's not going to get talked about on offense when you think about Pouncey, when you think about DeCastro, Al, you think about these receivers, Ben, James. I mean, we talk about everybody else but him, and he's at a premier position protecting Ben.
I rethought my answer. I think it's got to be 7. I'm just joking, dude.
It would have surprised me.
I'm just joking. I'm going to stick with Edmonds, dude. I am. I just think, dude, outside of maybe the first game or two, I know there was maybe one or two plays that they completed a pass on him, and, people on social media were saying he got burnt and stuff.
This is my thing that gets me, right?
But here's my point. Ever since then, the clutch sack against the Broncos, I've seen multiple times pass deflections. And I remember the Titans game, he had 2. The one should have been a pick, yes. And then he had the 2 picks this game. I've just seen really good plays ever since the first week or two from Terrell Edmonds up to this point.
But this is my thing. People say the first week or two. You get in the pass court in zone coverage. That's not on the safety. No, that's the part that drives me nuts.
I remember us talking about that too, because
and you can show it numerous times on tape where it's literally that's a zone coverage. There are natural
they're
holes,
funneling it to him,
right? And people make it like, well, because he was the nearest man while the ball was caught, he sucks. Put it on him. And we came up here multiple times. Not only did we do a film session, but we talked about it like, man, just because a guy catches it and he's in the vicinity, it's not on him. So I don't even that's what why I had cut you off, because like just hearing you say, man, these first 2 games might have been that good. I'm like, to who? He was playing well. He's been playing well all season, man.
Well, I do remember us talking about that actually. Absolutely, because you brought it up to me. You were like, oh man, what was your take on Terrell Edmonds' game? It was the Giants game. And I was like, I thought he played good. I mean, there was 1 or 2 plays like he was around. It was like a big catch for maybe like 15, 20 yards or something. But then we talked about it's like, I think at that point in the game, we were dropping back a little bit. But like I said, dude, the sack against the Broncos, how many times has he been in there for like run protection too? Like getting dudes behind the line of scrimmage.
Always been good, man.
Yeah, and then I've seen how many times some of these pass deflections, you see like 1 or 2 a game, you're like, damn, dude, that was an awesome play.
Absolutely,
everyone rips on him for his coverage. And then he had the 2 picks this game. So I'm going to go with Terrell Edmonds, man.
I like that, man, because he's been balling out.
I like your pick too. Your pick's pretty good too.
Nah, man, he's been balling out, man. That's my thing with Edmonds. Like, I linked towards him, but my mindset was I don't want to be the guy that, all right, because now he has 2 picks, now we're going to come up here and praise him. Right. Even though not because we've already been doing it. That's what I'm saying. We've already been praising him, but that was my whole thought process. I'm like, Now it's like, oh, well, kind of like the national media, right? You ain't want to talk about it the first 3 weeks. Don't talk about them now. You ain't want to talk about them after the first couple of games. Don't talk about them now. They getting 2 picks and all this other stuff. See, I was getting
that's why I'm getting
my decor, man.
Well, that's why I felt good about saying Terrell Edmonds equals Pro Bowl. That was my take out there. I felt good about it because we've been on it this whole time. We've been on it,
no doubt.
Like I feel like it'd be different if all of a sudden James Conner has like a 200-yard game next week, and then I'm puffing my chest. James Conner Pro Bowl. I was talking about bringing in Le'Veon Bell and maybe giving McFarland more snaps. That definitely wouldn't be a good look.
Oh, good. So shout out to Timothy. That was a good question right there as well. All right, now this next one is from Lit Potato. Heck of a name. I love it. Shout out to the Lit one. All right. Why did our running game start working so well? And why did James Conner only get 13 carries? So as it pertains to the carries, the biggest thing, it was more so a flow. And we talked about with only having one tight end and that tight end being Ebron. That's not the best scenario from a personnel standpoint to block out of. Now, in terms of why the running game got going, a couple of things we said earlier. James Conner, number one, he did a great job of making guys miss. This was the most physical and explosive version of James Conner I've seen since he's taken over. This reminds me of like that first year when I think it was 2018? Yeah, 2018 was his first year. Like that, the way he ran yesterday reminded me of 2018. Like the decisiveness, the burst, the physical running. Like typically since then, we've seen James run to either not fumble or he's running and he looks like he's trying to not get hurt. Yesterday, that was not the case at all. His demeanor, when you talk about physical demeanor, that's what yesterday was. When you talk about feature back demeanor, that's what that was yesterday. We hadn't seen that a lot from James this season. But to me, that was a big reason why the running game was so successful, because anytime he was one-on-one with the safety, and this is another thing that Randy Fichtner did a great job of when we talk about scheme. He did a good job of scheming up runs where you're going to get James one-on-one with the safety or corner, and it's on James to make the guy miss. James did a good job of making those guys miss. That is scheme related. A lot of people don't talk about it. A lot of people overlook it. And I'm serious. And that's the thing that always gets me like, man, the OC is terrible. I'm like, yeah, everybody can get, nobody's perfect, without a doubt. We can go down any coach and we got flaws with all of them. But one thing that Randy Fichtner has been doing well, or at least did well in this Jaguars game, was get the one-on-one matchups for James Conner. And then from there, James did a good job of making those guys miss the majority of the time. Now, it was still, like I said, from a blocking standpoint, they still had some issues. But as a whole, I thought that some of these plays were designed really well. And I also liked they had a personnel group where it was literally 4 wides, 1 tight end. They used Ray McCloud though as your pseudo running back. Yeah. So essentially it was empty sets where Ray is lined up at the number 1 receiver spot. Typically that's where your running back motions out to when it's an empty formation. And they were using Ray. He caught, I think, 1 or 2 just quick passes out there. They weren't even screens. It was just stand up, throw the ball out there and let him make a guy miss. They also had him motion into the backfield and take a couple of handoffs from the backfield as well. So they showed some creativity with that. And those are the things you have to do. We said that this offensive line right now at this stage, they aren't going to be able to just blow a team, a D-line off the ball for 4 quarters at this stage. So what you have to do is some of those funky formations, some of those funky personnel groups, and get creative. And that's ultimately what they did. And I do think that was why you saw the spark. But it's a couple of things that still go into that. Number 1, we said James Conner. Number 2, we said the scheme. Number 3, the offensive line, they did block really well. This is probably their best blocking game past couple of weeks easily in terms of just the physicality that they played with. But the last thing, we're not going to be blind and act like we don't notice. The Jaguars, their personnel wasn't the best. And those guys, they did look like they wore down. We saw those, especially in their secondary, they were banged up a lot. But that Jaguars defense, it's not that caliber. So I do think that played into it as well. So when you talk about that perfect storm, that's kind of what yesterday was for the run game. Like I said, James was running great. O-line was handling their business. James making guys miss. Schematically, it was doing well. And then, you take advantage of a little bit of a underwhelmed or a overwhelmed defense. And, you get that type of result yesterday, man.
Why am I still not feeling good about it? Because I know we did have some good runs there. And you're right, 100%. And I felt like James Conner did run his best. There was the one screen pass he caught. Dude, absolutely. It felt like he flew off that. got the first down.
It was when the D lineman missed his legs and then he just had a burst. I mean, we haven't seen a burst like that from James. Like I said, since 2018.
I was shocked. Like I sat up in my seat whenever I saw it. You know that meme whenever you're sitting back and then all of a sudden you lean up a little bit. You're like, whoa, what did I see there?
I didn't think you could sit up, man. Everybody thought you just,
I did for that play.
Oh, you went from here to here?
I did for that play. Obviously, the Reggie Bush play you talked about, there was like 2 or 3 others where he got, I think it was like at least 10 or 15 yards.
Yeah, absolutely. And he also had a 30-yard, he had I think it was a 25-yard run, a 17-yard run, a 13 or 10. Like he had multiple, we call X factor runs or explosive runs, man.
And I will say this, even some of his short runs where he only got 2 or 3 yards, like those were earned runs. Like I feel like there was a guy in the backfield. Forward, yeah. So here's my problem though. It still felt like painful watching the run game a little bit. I know those plays were nice. I really liked that, but there was nothing that made me feel good about the running game going forward still.
Yeah. Well, everything I just told you right there.
Like you said, perfect storm.
And it was the perfect storm.
Yeah.
You face a D line that is going to get off the ball, and have personnel. Obviously, we're going to see that this week with the Ravens. It's different. I mean, not only, like I said, from a physicality standpoint across the O-line, that's different. But the edge guys going up against Ebron are going to be different as well in terms of McPhee, Judon. Those guys, they are physical players when it comes to the run game. For Jacksonville, Josh Allen is their best D lineman right now, but
he got hurt.
He got hurt, but he's still an edge rusher. He's not he's going to dominate the C gap. You can't run towards him like a Myles Garrett. That's not his game. So that also helped out Ebron as well. And that's why I'm saying in terms of why it worked to here, great. Long term, still got to fix it. And that's what we say on a short week is tough, but you're going to have to figure out some things. I mean, we've seen this Steelers unit, not in 2020, but we've seen them in the past go with an extra O lineman during the middle of the field. Remember when Chris Hubbard was here? That was something that they used to love to do. They would go under center, have Chris Hubbard come out here, and then you'll see the counter runs with him pulling around, DeCastro pulling around, Le'Veon hitting it inside, or potentially doing the patient, and then bursting outside. So they could go to that as well. The problem that I see right now, in terms of just personnel to use that, typically your extra O-lineman is an extra tackle. So in the past, it was who? You've had, I'm just drawing a blank on his name, Chris Hubbard. And then from there, you had Zach Banner. Before all those guys, you had Kelvin Beachum. All 3 of those guys are tackles, right? They can move. Now, Zach Banner's down. Now, you could potentially try to use Gerald Hawkins. I'm not sure how comfortable they feel with him in that role. But outside of Hawkins, you're not going to use JC, who is more center than, and trying to put him on the edge to do some of that type of stuff. Just athletically, that's not what they specialize in. And you also don't have the size advantage. You got to think JC isn't a big, like when you talk, the reason why it works with using tackles is because on the edge, most of your edge defenders, right? Anywhere between 6'2", 6'4", 6'5". Every once in a while you get the freak Myles Garrett, right? Those are your 4-3 DNs. But typically they are in that 6'4" range. So to put a 6'1", 6'2", 6'3" guard center out there, that doesn't give you the same advantage. To that edge guy, you're looking at like, man, this is a Scooby snack. Like, I'm going to eat this. I want this. Now, when you put a tackle out there who's 6'7", 6'8", 300, 320, now you have that advantage. That's what you're always hunting. And that's what we do as a defense to combat that. We do what? We'll put Cam Hayward as an edge guy to play in that 7 technique when they do that as well. So that's kind of the gift and curse of that. But right now, from a personnel standpoint, outside of Gerald Hawkins, we don't have another bigger body guy to just put out there on the edge that you know is going to consistently get a helmet also. So you're handicapped. And that's why for me, in terms of being excited about the running game going forward, I'm really not. Because if James would have been running like this all year and it's just, man, all right, he's getting hit in the backfield, that's one thing. But to me, I have to ask myself, was this a one-off James, or are we going to get James coming back and looking like this from here on out? If he runs like that
Reggie Bush play doesn't happen again. You know what I mean?
I've never seen that from him, right? And even the screenplay, the burst that he had off of that, we've never seen that. So it's like, if we can get that again, I think the running game will drastically improve. But if we're not going to get that and we still have these other issues, then it's going to continue to be an issue going forward.
Yeah, and I guess maybe part of it's a knock on James Carter. Part of it's just the knock on the line and personnel we're talking about too. So
absolutely, man.
like, because if Connor keeps playing like this, that's great for him and that's great for our team. Like, it might improve us by 10 or 20% on the running game, but if the personnel's still not there, it's not going to matter. I don't think,
man.
Like, he could be running like this, but if he's getting stopped in the backfield and stuff against good defense, against good rush defenses, it's going to be like, I mean, I don't care who you have back there.
Right,
you know?
no question, man.
Like, even if we did bring in Le'Veon Bell, I just don't know how much of a difference it would make if our personnel and our line keeps playing how it's been.
I think the reason why with James yesterday, he was like that perfect combination of the power that he plays with, but the speed of McFarland, right? Typically, we have to deal with one or the other. Typically, it's either we're going to get power from James and Benny, or we got to go small ball speed with McFarland. Yesterday, James flashed a little bit of both. And when he can do that as a defense, that kills you, because now it's no longer just the run over element. It's run over or make you miss. Derrick Henry has been doing that, man. Surprising people with just how he's able to jump cut and make guys miss, because you're so geared up to make sure you don't get ran over that he's able to catch you, you know, heavy footed and stuff like that. If James can continue that, man, that opens up so much. But right now, for me, and as much as I love James and believe in him, man, to me, that was because I've only seen that once in how many, you know, rushing attempts that we've seen through James
since
to his
2018.
career. I just don't believe that that's going to be the average. I feel like that's more outlier in this scenario, man.
Well, and you could even look at Snow and McFarland too. Going back to my point of, I don't feel good about just our whole running system here. I really don't, because Snow couldn't do anything, McFarland couldn't do anything either. So we'll see going forward. I mean, we're going to be doing a Ravens preview here. I got my opinions for what the offense should do.
Here we go. All right, we got this one right here. We're gonna have two more, I think. So this is from Derek Padilla. I think I said that right. And here's from Albuquerque, New Mexico. All right, shout out to Albuquerque. How many touchdowns would Chase Claypool have if not for pass interference on almost every deep pass he hasn't caught? And second, what's a few good memories of playing with Ben Roethlisberger? All right,
nice.
Shout out to Derek, man. In terms of Chase Claypool, yeah, without a doubt. I mean, I feel like he would definitely
2 or 3 more.
Yeah, you can make that case. I never like to play that game, because the alternative is, well, what if he dropped it? You never know. So that's my whole thing. I mean, the thing is this: he's flipping the field. He's keeping the offense on schedule in the sense of, we talked about with our offense right now, they are heavy, big play dominant, right? They're either going to connect on the deep pass or they're going to draw the penalty. We even saw that yesterday. And when they do that, it keeps them on schedule. It gets them where they want to be. And then from there, they take advantage of these red zone possessions. So with Claypool, man, I think he's doing what he's supposed to do. And trust me, man, he's going to get even more. I mean, right now he's sitting there 10 touchdowns as a rookie. That's
10 games.
Crazy, man. Crazy. So yeah, he's going to continue to get more of those things. But yeah, that's my whole thing. When it comes to the whole, how many more would he had, it's hypothetical. And I don't really like hypotheticals. I ain't gonna lie to you, man. you know that ain't my thing, bro. It's not my thing.
I know that. The pass interferences though yesterday, I thought those were good calls too.
No,
it's not one of those ticky-tack ones. I mean, maybe we got 1 or 2 of those throughout the season, but I thought legitimately whenever you look at it slow motion and stuff, I thought they were really holding Claypool back from having a chance to get the ball. How many touchdowns? I'd say 2 or 3 more, because there was one in the Cowboys game we threw up deep to Claypool and he had his hands on it. It was like a contested ball and everything. I know it went through his hands. So there's no guarantees with any of that stuff. I'm just trying to think of anything with Claypool here. Dude, he's on a good pace here. He's on a good pace. Jefferson, dude, remember how we talk about rookie receivers? Yeah. Dude, Jefferson's going off, man.
He did.
He has so many yards. That's the thing. Yeah. Claypool's got the touchdowns. He's got the yards. Yeah. So we'll see how it plays out, because Burrow with the ACL, he can't be the front runner anymore. Bro. I guess Herbert went off though. He's been going off.
But I still feel like, put it like this: Burrow going down opens up the door so much, because the knock on Herbert was going to be that he hasn't played enough compared to Burrow, who was starting from week 1. And now with Burrow being gone, I mean, that gamut now, it's a wide open race. And I think that favors Claypool a lot more, because Claypool has been doing it from the beginning. Whereas with Herbert, it was a little bit later. Now, obviously, Herbert at quarterback,
dude,
these
his
next
numbers
6
are crazy.
Games, these next 6 games, he could go, the way he's playing right now, he can continue to go off. And the thing is,
you thought it was going to be the haircut too, and maybe hold him back, but no,
like, bro, he's looking good. He's looking good. So as much as I would love for Claypool to get that, Yeah, that Herbert is making it very difficult right now, man. He's making it very difficult. But it's crazy, though, when we talked about Burrow, we said that all year. We said, man, he's been balling out, but it's more so, can you protect him? And the dam finally broke, man. It's crazy, though, bro.
What do you do about that, though? Because I'm sure there's probably going to be a lot of people that come out, oh, did the Bengals do a disservice to Burrow? But it's like, you don't not play him.
This is my thing. I don't have an issue with
you. You were about the Dalton thing, though, keeping him.
I was. Yeah. My thought process was, if all you did was change the quarterback and the receiver, but you never addressed the key issue, which has been the offensive line in Cincinnati for years now, you're putting that man out there, so you're doing him a disservice. And we've seen games where he was getting blasted. We've seen that. And we just say, man, he's just tough. He's super tough. I like tough, but I would much prefer my quarterback not have to be tough. I'd rather him just, hey, we know you have that in there, but you don't need to show that every game. And with Joe, when you watch that, man, he would get hit a lot. And it finally caught up, man, when you play another team. I mean, obviously with Washington, man, their D-line, they do a good job of getting after the quarterback. We've seen that's been one of the bright spots for that team, man. And it just showed up right there, man. It's unfortunate that season ending, but you run that risk. And it's crazy. I mean, we talked about two quarterbacks, right? We said with him and with Tua as well. In terms of you throwing those guys out there a little bit early, man, do you want to do it? They pulled Tua yesterday, and initially,
is it Fitzmagic time?
Well, so this is the thing though. So this is my issue that I have with this, because Flores, right? He pulls Tua. Initially, they say, well, oh man, maybe it has to be because of injury, man. He's getting banged up in the game, man, but he's not playing well either. After the game, Flores says it was performance based, but then he also says
we're going
Tua's
back.
Gonna be go back to it. So I'm just like, when you play that game with these quarterbacks, people forget that these are still humans. That still affects them. Imagine if you're at work and one day you're promoted, one day you're fired, then you're promoted again. That's going to get to you. That's going to mess with you mentally. That's the only thing, man. When you start doing that with young quarterbacks, with Fitzmagic, it's different. Fitz has been in this league forever. He's handled these situations. He's been in it. It's not new to him. With young quarterbacks, man, with young players in general, you just don't know how they're going to respond to that. We've seen a scenario with Josh Rosen, how, I mean, you see his confidence is shot. I mean, it just depends, man. Some people handle it better than others, but it's dicey when you play that game back and forth. And that was my biggest reason why, a couple weeks ago when they were talking about making the move, I'm like, I personally wouldn't do that until I'm 1,000% sure that this is what I want to do, because you don't, I mean, that now think about how that looks. If you're in that locker room, you're looking at Tua right now, or if you're Tua, do you believe in your abilities when you know for a fact they pulled you because of bad play? It's like, dang, are you going to pull me again if I play bad again? Because you didn't pull me because I was getting hurt. You said it was performance based. So if I play bad again, are you going to pull me? If I throw 2 picks, are you going to pull me? Am I looking over my shoulder now? Those are the things that start to creep in, man. And that's not a recipe for success.
That's a fair point. I remember us talking about the whole Burrow situation too, about, man, should they have kept Dalton? Should they be sitting him out too? And we laid out the scenarios of because the situation that was weird about it was him being a number 1 pick.
Yes.
So you never
made it different.
Yeah, it made it different. It's like, all right, you're picking him number 1 because like Mahomes was different with Kansas City from the standpoint that Kansas City was still good. I think they made the playoffs.
They made the playoffs. Yeah.
And Mahomes was the 15th pick, like you knew going in.
Remember, they had just went to the AFC Championship game either that year or the year before. Or no, they had the 2 seed. We beat them in the divisional round. Actually, that would have been 17, and they made the switch in 18. So
we laid out all the scenarios where, all right, this is kind of going with history, where you draft Burrow, you get rid of the old quarterback, and you just you let it happen. We also said
that Alex Smith, he wasn't homegrown there either. He came through.
Oh, true. Where it was like, this is Dalton's team.
Dalton, they drafted him. He was their guy. Second contract and everything.
Yeah, it'd be different if they had Fitzpatrick up with Cincy, right? Yes. Where they could have let him maybe play 5 or 6 games or play the season, depending on how your line's looking. And you're like, man, do we really want to put Burrow into this?
Absolutely, man.
But yeah, there's a lot that goes in, because you got to think the hype, the just re-energize the fans and stuff with your number 1 pick.
But we felt like it wasn't necessary, because from a money standpoint, they could afford him and still not have any issues from a cap standpoint. So if you can afford to have him even as a high-end backup, why not? You know what I mean? Like, you already had the familiarity and stuff like that. My only thing that I could think of is if
you're talking about having Dalton as a backup. Yeah.
Cincy. The only thing I could think of is if Cincy just clearly wanted to say, you know what, we want to make it where it's a fresh start, and Burrow doesn't have to worry about even the thought of going back to Dalton. Yeah, that could have been the other thing.
Because that's the thing he has over Tua, where he had that bad game against Baltimore. There's no thought of bringing in someone else.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas,
I mean, they might have at the end of the game just to save him from injury or something.
But never, you never had to look in that room and say, this guy is good enough to play with me. Tua, when he looks at Fitzpatrick, he's like, Fitz can ball, but you know Fitz is still going to turn the ball over late in the games. Burrow looked in that room. Burrow didn't have anyone to look around. I mean, he's not worried about, oh, can this guy come and take my spot? Whereas you know with Fitz, it's like, are you getting Fitz magic or are you going to get Fitzpatrick? If you get Fitz magic, man, you might be sitting on the sideline for 7-8. And literally, he showed Fitz magic a little bit yesterday. And then Fitzpatrick showed him at the end of it. But that's who he is. But if you catch him in a game where you know he's good for 3 or 4 where he'll just be hot, man, that could kill your confidence if you're Tua, man.
Yeah.
And this is my thing, too, with Flores. Now that I think about it a little bit more, we've seen this before with him. Josh Rosen last year. Remember, they pulled Fitzpatrick.
Did they start with Rosen?
Absolutely. I want to say they started with Rosen, pulled him, and then had Fitz playing, and then they put Rosen back in, and then pulled him again later in the year. So this isn't the first time that we've seen him play the quarterback carousel with Fitzpatrick going back and forth with these other quarterbacks. He definitely did that last year. I definitely remember that because I said, man, when they went to Rosen, I'm like, all right, he's going to finally get opportunity. And I think it was a 1 or 2 game sample. He got banged up one game. I remember getting hit a lot, and they just, all right, switched back out, put Fitz in, and then we never saw Rosen again. So for me, I'm just like, so this is the thing too, as much as I talk about competition, right? And I love competition. I love it at quarterback preseason, off season. When it's during the season, I don't want to be switching my quarterback. That's like switching your head coach. That's like switching your middle linebacker. Like, at certain positions, you don't want to be rotating those guys in and out. So I don't want to have to, well, these 2 games I'm going with this guy. Next game I'm going with that guy. Like, no. If you want to play that game, you do that during training camp. You do that all season. You let them compete, battle out, however you want to do it. Once the season gets here, though, man, you got to have your one guy that you roll with and commit with, unless it's an injury or it's something catastrophic where he's just out of control. 2 or 3
games really bad.
Yeah, but if that's not the case, man, you can't flip-flop these guys like that, man.
Well, because that was the thing last year. Do you remember us talking about Mason and Duck?
Yeah.
I mean, it was the Cleveland game. He had the 4 picks. I think even at that point, we were like, all right, let's just wait and see. Because once you go to Duck, you're not going back.
Right.
But then he had the really bad Bengals first half. It's like, we need to win this game somehow, some way.
So then we switched.
Duck came in. Yeah. And then you want to stick with Duck for the 3 games. And it was just a disaster.
But then when Duck started playing bad, then they tried to switch back to Mason. Then Mason gets hurt. And it was a cluster, man. Like, you can't do that with your quarterbacks, man. It's a recipe for disaster. So, and I speak from personal experience. In Buffalo, we did that, man. Those 4 years between Trent Edwards being traded, Fitzpatrick being there for, I think, 2 years, and then him being gone, we did that quarterback carousel where literally, man, over 16 games, you start 4 or 5 different quarterbacks. That's a recipe for disaster. As good as we were defensively, as good as we were on special teams, that was the Achilles heel. It was like, you don't know who's going to be the quarterback. And each week you're trying to, all right, well, this is his strength and limitation. That's his strength and limitations. All right. So we're going to change the playbook for this guy this week. All right. We're going to go short and intermediate passing. Oh, okay. This guy's a deep ball threat. All right. We're going chunk plays this week. All right. These guys, he can't throw either. All right. We're going to run the ball this week. And he's like, bro, this is terrible. Like, we cannot keep winning like this, man. And that was the issue, man. So when you start doing that, man, just know, like, long term, and we saw it last year, like you said with Mason and Duck, it's a recipe for disaster. Eventually it's going to catch up to you, man. It's just a bad situation to be in. It's a lose-lose kind of whatever you do, because if you do stick with the guy who keeps playing bad, your locker room's like, all right, this is the best we got. Let's try to do something here. Right. But then you do something, it's like, all right, we got to go back. What the hell? No question, man. It's just lose-lose. No question. And then for the second part of that, Derek, for me, man, my favorite memory would been, I always go back 2015. Is actually the 4th quarter of that Bengals wildcard game, right? And the reason why I like that is because I always say it's the Paul Pierce moment where he leaves out, he's carted out to the back, you're thinking he's dead, comes back out there, he lights it up, obviously he wins, right? But that following week, the thing that gets me is because that following week, we're all super paranoid because we celebrated, but we didn't even celebrate because we're like, dang, like 7, the arm, is he good? So literally the whole week we're in panic mode, man. We're practicing, we're getting at this great game plan, and we're just like, bro, it doesn't matter. Like, we don't have Ben, we don't have AB this game, we don't got L Bell. Like, it's done. Like, it sucks, you know? And I remember, man, he didn't take a single snap all week in practice. He would stand on the sideline. Well, I want to say Wednesday he wasn't even there. He just stood on the sideline. Thursday, Friday, we're like, God. This Saturday, it's like, all right, Saturday is the walkthrough. Saturday, I mean, when you're at the walkthrough, you're like, all right, anybody that's going to play in the game is available during the walkthrough. They're going through the motions during the walkthrough, okay? The walkthrough isn't serious, but it's the window dressing. It's like, it visually makes me feel comfortable. And I distinctly remember The whole walkthrough, Ben has his right arm in his shirt as if somebody cut his arm off, and he's throwing every pass left-handed. And I remember, man, it was me, Vince, I want to say Shazier, we're looking at each other and we're like, bro, this is bad. It's done. It's over. Like, we know what this is here, man. He can't even throw with the right hand on Saturday. How the heck we go play in this game tomorrow? Like, what the heck, man? And then the game starts. He goes to the back. I don't know what happens. He comes back out. That thing ain't rolling. And we saw the game he had. He lit it up. We're just like, bro, this is crazy. Crazy. So for me, that was always one of my, even though the game, like obviously the ending of it was bad. We didn't win it. But man, the way that he played, it was just such a talk about night and day emotionally for us, going from him getting hurt, leaving the game, coming back for Cincy, not practicing all week, throwing left-handed in warm-ups. And then you see him come out here and play in this game and light it up. I mean, it was just crazy.
Were you surprised at the long bomb right at the beginning of the game?
No question. All of us were, because, man, when I tell you, like, imagine, now this is Ben. Now, we know Ben, like, we always get him. We're like, bro, sometimes we feel like you're going to milk it a little bit to get the theatrics. And we call him out on it all the time. Like, it is what it is. Like, we know it's like, all right, Ben's hurt. I don't believe it until he's, like, in a cast. You know what I mean? Like, we said it numerous times. But that one, it just felt so real because it's like, dude, it's Saturday and you're throwing left-handed.
Well, dude, you saw him in the Bengals game. He like had to like push it.
He was pushing the ball. And we're just like, bro, it's over. Like, it's done. And then for him to just come out and air it out the way he did, we're like, bro, he's not human. That's what we kept saying. Like, he's not human. He's not. Like, this is nuts. Like, you're not supposed to be able to do this, you know? Especially after just 24 hours, you were throwing left-handed. But that's 7, man. And that's why, for me, that's one of my favorite stories. And, I mean, there's plenty of other things that, man, come to mind when I think of Ben, man. But it's that type of guy, man. He's that type of guy. And that's why you love him. That's why you play so hard for him. Because you know that, man, regardless of how banged up he is, regardless of what's going on, when it's time to go, he's going to lay it on the line for you. And you know, with him doing that, especially how decorated he is, it makes you want to do the same thing when you're on the field with him. Because you know, I mean, dude, we seen him come out there, man, banged up knee, banged up shoulder, banged up face. It did not matter. He's going to get out there. He's going to stand in the pocket. He's going to stare out the barrel, and he's going to drop dimes. And that's why you love him, man. So, yeah.
Great story.
Absolutely, man. I wish the ending would have been a little better, but we're not going to get into that. But shout out to you, Derek. Shout out to you.
I could go on for hours about that game.
Nope. We're going to leave it. We're going to stay positive. We stand positive. All right. And we got our last one right here. This is from Eli Outcult. Okay, Eli. Do you think they should play Avery Williamson more or keep Spillane and Vince Williams out there? Steelers Nation, baby, 10-0. Well, I will say this. Yesterday, they actually did.
He was in a decent amount.
Yeah, they were using him. They used him, like how we said with Ulysses Gilbert and Marcus Allen before, where it was, you know, the third down long plays or obvious passing situations. They had him out there. I thought he moved well. Obviously, once the All-22 comes out, we'll be able to see a lot more in terms of how he played. And then he obviously had the garbage time at the end once. This would have been once we had that after the Ebron touchdown. He stayed out there with Spillane and got some more reps and stuff like that. So yeah, once the full tape comes out, we'll be able to see him a lot more. Kind of tough to grade him when his TV copy don't really show everything we need, man.
We even talked about it last week. I brought it up. I was like, how did Avery Williamson do? I think, like, literally, he was just in at the end of the game. It was just like garbage time 10 stuff.
10 plays tops at the end, man.
And he was in throughout the game, but every time I saw him, there was nothing, like, monumental that happened. It seemed like he wasn't getting thrown at, which is good. You're not hearing his name, so that's definitely a good thing. Yeah, so like I said, I'm going to look into him to, obviously, as the week progresses and the tape comes out. I don't know, it probably won't be out in time before this next game on Thursday, but we'll get to it eventually though, man. But I definitely want to, because when I saw him out there earlier in the game and some of these situational possession downs and stuff like that, I wanted to see just, you know, how he was performing. But from everything I saw initially, he looked good. He didn't look as if he was out of place. And when I say out of place, I'm not talking about a physical ability standpoint. I'm talking about knowing your assignment standpoint. Because when you're playing in third down, that's typically when the Steelers like to get exotic and do some of the different things and move in positions. It's not like your traditional linebackers do linebacker drops, safety do safety drops. We already said Edmonds and Minka have been doing linebacker drops, and everybody else had to kind of react and not even react from it, but adjust off of that. And like I said, that's more schematic while they're doing it, and it's been working great. So I'm gonna have to look into Avery a little bit more from that standpoint. But initially, man, I thought he played well, man. I'm good with that too. Oh, and this isn't a question. This isn't a question right here.
It's from Live Motivated. Remember, they hopped on last week. They had a question last week. Shout out to Liv. No question from me. Just tell Deke to get used to that beard because we ain't losing this season. Boom. Shout out to Live Motivated, baby. I like that, man. I'm motivated too, man.
That is a great comment.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I'm motivated by that. And you know what else I'm motivated by?
What?
DraftKings Sportsbook.
Dude, wait. All right, we'll go ahead. Do the promo stuff.
See, you already messed it up. It's cool, man. You already threw it off, man. I had a smooth transition going. You done throw it off. I get it on the back end. Go ahead, man. What you got?
No, you go for it.
It's too late now.
Because this will be part of the segment.
But the flow, you already messed the flow up, though.
A couple of my friends and family.
All right, go ahead.
They went by your picks there, man.
Yeah.
They're kind of let down.
Yeah.
A little bit.
No. I was going to say it's a half and half. Remember, it's the parlay. Chiefs part just let you down because Chiefs did not win by 8. They did win. Ben over 1.5 touchdowns, absolutely covered again. So with that being said, keep racking it up. And
dude, people are listening though. I'm just I more or less wanted to say that as a positive thing. I know because
absolutely, man.
Not everything's gonna go your way. We talked about this before, but people are tuning in.
Yeah,
they want your advice.
So if only you wouldn't have messed up my promo, we would have had that flowing perfect. But you just jumped the gun.
I had to.
So now in the most awkward, not even smooth way, I'm going to do a hard read right here.
Yeah, but this is how good you are. This is why you're the professional.
It throws it off. So everybody, moment of silence. Shh. Let me tell you about DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook and app. Yes, it's safe, secure, and reliable. And for all my first-time users out there, if you use the promo code Moats, you'll receive up to $1,000 in deposit bonus money. And 2 picks that I talked about last week, man. I said the Chiefs to win by 8 points or more versus the Las Vegas Raiders, along with Ben Roethlisberger to throw over 1.5 touchdowns. I said them separately, I didn't like. The odds weren't good, but them parlaying together, I like the odds. And the thing with the parlay is this, depending on how you feel, and I've talked about this as well on the show, you can always hedge your bet with the parlays, meaning that, hey, even though the total amount is going to equal this for a payout, when you hedge your bet, you can put more money on one or multiple parts of the parlay. So for me, I always lean more towards the Ben over 1.5 touchdowns because I do feel that he's always going to throw at least 2 touchdowns with these receivers. Now, when it comes to the games being won, you see, I don't really like to put a lot of money on that because of because of how it fluctuates. So me, typically, I like money line over spread, but for this particular one, the odds were better. But that's the beauty of gambling, right? Sometimes you hit, sometimes you don't. But as long as you hedge your bet, you do it the right way, man, you'll be successful. So even if you did not hit on both, which is the parlay, you're still going to hit on the Big Ben one. So right now, man, we're shooting at least 50% every week. When it comes to gambling, it's actually huge because typically in gambling, you're not nowhere near 50%. Trust me on that, man.
Ben got the one to Ebron in the fourth quarter.
The Claypool earlier.
You got the Claypool one. Now, the one with the Raiders and the Chiefs, I think the Raiders surprised everyone how they played.
Oh, absolutely they did, man.
Like, that was crazy.
Absolutely
that was crazy. I mean, I don't want to get into it, but Raiders should have caught some more balls. That's all I'm going to say.
That's fine. I mean, we can say the same thing every week about every team, so I ain't tripping on that. But this is what I did want to talk about was this, though, man. So last night, how that happened in prime time, how you got the Mahomes magic at the end of the game, and it was against, at the time, where they were 6-3 at the time. They were 6-3 at the time. So last night, when people ask why people still will put the Chiefs ahead of the Steelers, the game last night was why. Even against a good Raiders team, 6-3, right? A team that, I mean, they're battling back and forth. They even take the lead late in the game. You see the way that they operate at the end to win dramatic fashion in prime time. People love the dramatics, and they love the fact that it's against another top team. So that's why people will still view the Chiefs as being the number one, whereas with the Steelers, man, it was great that they blew out the Jaguars, and I thought they did a great job across the board. But you just see how it sounds different. I mean, you said it yourself. You said, man, it was about second quarter. You're like, man, this game is over. And it was kind of boring. With the Chiefs, man, that game was interesting throughout. I mean, you were getting the back and forth. You were getting some of the big time plays in the clutch moments. And that's why some people still, or not even some, a good amount of people still have the Chiefs ahead, even with them only having one loss as well, man.
And I get it. They can have all that. We'll take the number 1 seed. How about that?
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Hey, man, as long as we keep winning. Right now, they're 1 game back right now,
I
man.
know, that's what I mean. That would have helped, dude.
Yeah.
That would have helped having that cushion. If Chiefs would have 2 losses, man, that would have definitely helped.
But as long as you keep winning, you don't got to look around. It's that simple. You're in the driver's seat. The same what we were.
I know.
I mean, we were,
dude. That's what I mean. Some people are saying like, "Yo, we can afford to lose one." I just don't think that. We got to keep winning.
Like this. Last year we were sitting at 8-5. We said we are in the driver's seat. We didn't have to look around the stadium at all, right? We said as long as we take care of business, we're gonna be in the playoffs. We
slowly needed to start looking around.
Absolutely. So as it stands right now, we're sitting at 10-0. Everything we want is right in front of us. We don't have to look around for a number 1 seed. We don't have to look around to win the division. We don't have to look around for anything. So as long as you take care of business, everything is fine. When you start dropping games, and that's why we talk about, like, even though we were winning some of these games early on, and we said, man, we were a little bit more critical of them. This is why, because as it gets narrow, you don't want to have to look around. And the best way to prevent that is make sure that you're clicking on all cylinders, that make sure that you are addressing any errors that you have, any inefficiencies, you get those things fixed. So that way, as it gets down the line, you're still winning games and we don't have to ask for help. We don't have to hold our fingers or we don't have to cross our fingers and hope this team wins and hope that team loses to get a 1 seed. No. Just keep winning and we fine.
100%, dude.
So all that, we could drop a game or two. No. I ain't hearing none of that, man.
I'm not either. We need to keep winning.
Absolutely,
we definitely do. I mean, it would be a different story if Chiefs, I guess they lose this game and we go undefeated. Now we have the last week or two where the 1 seed's locked up.
That's different.
Where, we'll start playing the backups or whatever so we could rest up for the playoffs. But no, we got to keep winning. Absolutely, man. And that's the beauty right now. We're in the driver's seat. We've been in this position before. Let's execute. And typically with Coach Tomlin, man, when his teams are in the driver's seat, last year to me was a one-off, and I still chalk that up to obviously Ben being gone. But typically when Coach Tomlin's teams are in the driver's seat like this, they close out. I know my 4 years here, we closed out. Anytime we were in a position where we could clinch a spot, where we could get a playoff position, clinch a division, whatever it was, we took care of business in those games, man. I fully anticipate this team taking care of business like that as well, man, because they're clicking on all cylinders, they're healthy, and they got the right guy at the helm, man. Yeah, I'm ready, dude. Absolutely, Thanksgiving game here. I'm excited, man. A lot to be thankful for. So, short week. So, yeah. Hope y'all enjoyed this one. You got any hot topics today, man? Dude, actually, I don't. You got a hot topic? I don't, but I do, because I'm not. I don't have an expert opinion on this, but I do wonder if this is going to be a topic that's floated around today. Is it time for Taysom Hill to be replacing Drew Brees? They were playing the Atlanta Falcons. Pause. Well, there's that too. And I watched the game. There is things that he could do that Brees can't, obviously with the scrambling and stuff. Yeah. I just don't think that's something you want to be going with into the playoffs that you could feel really consistent about with your offense. Dude, the one pass, dude, he underthrew it by like 15 yards. You ain't got to tell me. I know. You ain't got to tell me, baby. I said it was like a buffer, more aggressive version of Lamar Jackson with less throwing ability. That's like, when I was watching it, that's what I kept thinking. Like, this is what Lamar does, except Lamar's more finesse. They're calling him Steve Young. I can't believe this. I can't believe this. Come on, man. You know why. BYU. We're going to roll with the narratives here, man. Let's keep these narratives rolling. It's BYU, the late bloomer to the NFL. Yeah. I guess that's why. Guy at quarterback. Oh. Yeah, he doesn't have Steve Young's arm. Not at all. Not even close. What are we talking about? I feel like Taysom Hill's like go-to thing is his scrambling and running ability. Yes. Whereas like Steve Young, that was his second thing. It, right? Yeah. And even when you watch Lamar, he's still looking to throw first, and that's like his bailout. Now it's unless you're doing the design runs, right. But that's his elite bailout. With Taysom, it's like, all right, 1001, can I run? It's like, no. And against the Falcons, we've already said the Falcons. We've seen them this year. We know who they are. Now, who do the Saints play next? That's gonna be the interesting part. No clue. Are they sticking with them? I guess Breeze is going to be out for a little bit. Yeah, those ribs and stuff. Ribs and lungs. They said best case was 2 to 3 weeks, but more people were saying it's probably going to be close to that 4 to 6 variety, just because of you don't want to play with the punctured lung and stuff like that. Let me see what the Saints have next, though. Okay. I mean, their defense looked good. I mean, they're one of the top teams in the NFC. They should be straight, though, man. They got the Broncos. Now, the Broncos defensively looked good last week. But, yeah, I mean, honestly, for Breeze to go down is the perfect time. So they got Broncos, Falcons, Eagles, their next 3 games. Then they got Chiefs and Vikings and Panthers to end it. Yeah, so they'd be straight these next 3 games. I think you could put it like this. Denver, they're going to be better on defense than the Falcons. So you're going to have to add a little bit more. Falcons, second time around seeing it, I think they handle a lot better. Similar to the Chargers 2 years ago.
when Lamar first took over as starting quarterback. Remember the first time around, it was like week 10 or 11. Lamar got after him. Then they saw them 2 weeks later in the wild card round. And then we saw the Chargers, like they had caught up and seen it before, and they had their number in that standpoint. I do think that the Falcons could potentially look like that next time they play them if they continue to go with Taysom. But we'll see, man.
Yeah, interesting. We'll see how it plays out. I thought they should have stuck with Jameis. Like,
I agree. I mean, if we're talking about playing quarterback, give me Jameis. But you also have to remember this, man.
They have a lot of money wrapped up in him, and they want to see what he's got for the future or whatever.
With the fact that, I mean, we agree that Drew Brees has been a top 10 at worst, top 10 quarterback at worst. Top 10 quarterback.
This year? You're talking about this year?
Just this year.
I thought he's played fine.
No, that's why I said at worst, top 10 quarterback. And even last year, and I'm saying since Taysom Hill's been there, he's been at worst, absolute worst, top 10.
Worst, now, yeah. I mean, I'd say that the average was top 5.
Right, no question. But I'm just to put it in context, at worst. But they still pull Drew Brees, who is a top 10 quarterback. They pull him off the field or put him at receiver multiple times throughout the game for Taysom
You know how
Hill.
much I don't like that.
Right, but this is all I'm saying. So when you talk about how much they like him, as much as we love Claypool, as much as we love Deontay Johnson, if it became where we're taking the ball out of Ben's hands at quarterback, we wouldn't love that the same way. That's why for me, I'm like, seeing Sean Payton do that prior to the games, it didn't surprise me that Sean Payton was so gung-ho about starting Taysom, and why I do think that he'll continue to go with him, because if you're willing to pull a top 10 at worst, and we personally believe he's a top 5 quarterback consistently, but if he's worst case top 10 and you're pulling him off it's not just one play, it's like 6, 7, 8 plays easily a game. If you're doing that, man, that lets you know like you really, really love this guy right here, man.
I don't think it's the best for, I guess, long term for them. I really don't. I agree, don't. Man. I think Jameis would have been the better call, but we'll see what happens.
I agree, man.
We'll see what happens. Because we've talked about this before in the past. Like, is Taysom Hill a franchise quarterback?
Yeah.
We'll see. It's like nothing against him. It's just everything I'm seeing. It just I don't think it's there, dude. I just really don't. Man. But we'll find out.
We will, man.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. But I don't know what Sean Payton's thinking with it, but we'll see.
Oh, like it. That's your last hot take? You got another hot take?
Dude, I think I'm good. Well, okay. I mean, we talked about Burrow. I had those two. I don't think there's everyone.
Big stuff, man.
Yeah, everyone hit on everything with these fan questions. I don't think there's anything Steeler related. They pulled that Minka one out of their ass. That was a good one. That was a good one. Shout out, man. I wouldn't have thought of that one at all.
Absolutely.
I think that's it, dude.
I like it then, man. So shout out to everybody that participated, man, with the questions, man. Shout out to everybody that did the score challenge as well, man. At halftime, always stay tuned. You never know we're gonna drop something like that. But appreciate everybody for tuning in. Appreciate all the subscribers. And until next time.
Peace.